Lieutenant Tom Hudner.
Jesse Brown.
It's good to meet you.
So we're here at the U.S. Navy Memorial in Washington, D.C. for a red carpet premiere of Devotion. This is the East Coast debut of this movie. So we're going to talk to all the actors, so stick around. So how are you feeling about this release and the fact that your grandfather's story is going to be told in this massive way?
Well, certainly surreal. I think, you know, when you hear about a film being made about your loved one, you couldn't imagine that it would get to be this big and get to reach such a wide audience. So the excitement, but also a lot of anxiety around how it will be received and what that all looks like. But honestly, we just couldn't be more proud.
So what are your concerns with respect to how it's going to be received?
I think, you know, with anything, once it's out in the world, it can take a life of its own. And so we've taken such care to preserve Jesse for us and, you know, that sort of family folklore. And I think we just hope that people see what we saw in him and Tom Hudner and sort of this story and what they accomplished together at a time where you don't hear about people crossing those racial barriers despite everything that he overcome to get there, and just wanting to be seen for like being a Navy pilot, and although being the first Black pilot, but recognizing that like he truly had to go through a lot and recognizing what that sacrifice really meant.
It must be hard being the naval aviator. Absolutely.
This is a departure for you, this role. You've played supervillains, you've done some serious movies, Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Yes, sir.
This is kind of a different take for you. How did you get interested in this role, for starters?
It's a different take, and yet it's something so close to home. You know, my grandfather served in the Korean War. You know, he was in the Army. It was an opportunity to bring a story forward that needed to be told, that had to be told. Yes, the other pictures I've done are integral, you know, to the culture. But there is something special about bringing a story to life that already lived. It's a reminder of the heroism and the humanity of Jesse Brown and Tom Hudner. And in doing so and bringing those stories forward, you bring forth the stories of all the veterans who fought in that war, and they're no longer forgotten. You know, so it's a different type of energy, you know, coming to work every day.
So as you get involved and learn about the character, obviously first Black carrier aviator, naval aviator, carrier pilot, that comes with all the inherent challenges that we know about. What did you bring to life? What did you learn about Jesse Brown that maybe historians or people who are familiar with the story may not know, or what will they see in the movie that you bring to life?
Well, I think they can imagine, you know, what it is to be the first anything. You know, we've got stories about that. But I think what's interesting about this story and the way we tell the story is that we watch the maintenance of excellence, which is something any military man can or woman can wrap their minds around. It's not just enough to make it into the squadron. You have to maintain that level of excellence. And what you see with Jesse is the maintenance of it, and he holds his position. You know, he was the first Black naval aviator, but in his mind, he was a naval aviator. And yes, he was Black and very proud to be so. But his goal was to be the best he could be. And in doing so, he inspired his people, he inspired the Navy, and he inspired me. So his courage, I think, is what people will see. His quiet courage. There's nothing about Jesse that is tropic. You know, you see his fear and you see him overcome it. You know, but you see his fear.
Like trying to land on the boat.
Trying to land that thing, you know? I mean, it's an impossible task, especially when you only have trust in yourself in that moment. You know, that's where we are in the film. Where
we're talking about Essex-class straight deck carrier. The Corsair was not an easy plane to land.
Not an easy plane, you know, and you see that, you know, the way Jesse's handling it. So yeah, his courage, the courage to like, I'm gonna do it by myself, and then the courage to go, okay, I'm gonna depend on this guy to help me land this thing. You know, we watch that happen. We watch that happen over and over and over again in our picture.
Remember, you belong down here with us too, okay?
So Daisy Brown is a Navy wife. That comes with its inherent challenges.
And Jessie being the first black naval aviator, she's the first black aviation wife, and she doesn't really have anybody to talk to about her trials, her tribulations, and so I think that's why her and Jessie strengthened their bond, strengthened their love, because it was them together. But I mean, also, they dealt with so many other things with people not believing that Jessie was a naval aviator. There were quite a few events where they were terrorized. And so there's just that thing of, the regular 1950s and what it was like for black people already. And then just that worry of him coming home. And so, you have to love and hold somebody up at home so that they can go out and do what it is that they do and fighting for the country. And, the Navy did not make it easy for Jessie to get to where he was. And I mean, it truly speaks to the maverick that he was. And so, for it to be a man as incredible as that, he had to have an incredible woman by his side.
We're taking a slight detour on the way home. Say again?
What are you going to find out about your wingman cruising at 10,000 feet, Lieutenant?
I don't have to do much when the story of what really happened is so incredible to begin with. It's actually more about trying to fit it in to the length of a movie, and you want to do so in a way that really represents and honors who Jessie and Tom, their families and the other aviators of VF-32 were. My job was really to just make it fit in that amount of time and try to tell it as well as I could, surround myself with the best collaborators that I could, have a wonderful actor in Jessie and Tom, and just make sure that it's a story that, ignites in other people what it ignited in me. So, but again, I'm a guest in the legacy of Jessie and Tom, so they did all the hard work.
Well, before we go on here, where'd your dad go?
My dad's right over here.
Come here. So this is kind of a family thing, right? And I don't just mean you and him. I mean the three of us. Come here. So this is his dad, an A6BN, who we cruised together on our first deployment on Indy back in the day.
Way back when.
He was in VA 176. I was in VF-32, the swordsman. So this is not an abstract to us.
Not at all.
Is this amazing or what? So we're trying to remember, you came over to our house, I don't even remember this, when I was an instructor at VT-86 in Pensacola. And there was a little guy with you.
Yeah.
Was that him?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, so we meet again.
Yeah,
what's up,
you haven't changed much.
Gained a little weight.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
And oh, by the way, I watch your stuff on YouTube.
Well, thank you. Look at it. It's high praise.
Yeah, I do.
Max
I
credit.
do. Yep.
I didn't pay him to say that.
No, not at all.
Hey, you intruder guys are okay.
Thank you. Well, you're a legend, so to speak.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. All right, let's go easy here. But what I want to get back to your son real quick, what I wanted to ask is, because the flying scenes are amazing.
Thank you.
So my audience in the comments is to go, how much is CGI? How much is real? You're competing just de facto with Top Gun Maverick.
Yep.
Obviously, we have a lot of Super Hornets, not so many Corsairs these days.
Yep.
In fact, what is the number and how many did you have at your disposal?
So I think there are about 11 or 12 flying Corsairs in the world right now. And at the height of production, we had 6, I believe. So, I mean, look, totally to your point. I mean, I've grown up for, the better part of my life, sitting in movies next to him, getting nudged when there's, aviation on screen. And he's like, that's not what they say. That's not how they move. That's not what they look like.
This was
so,
It was. Yeah.
So step one for me coming on board to Devotion was, outside of getting Jonathan Majors for Jessie, which was I was hell-bent on, was
He was
also...
the guy from the
beginning. Yeah,
okay.
That's who I wanted. The second part was we need to shoot this as practically as we can. Look, there's no way to shoot all of this practically. There aren't enough Corsairs in the world to shoot it practically.
So practically business speak for in real life, not CGI.
Or what we call in camera.
In camera.
What you shoot is what you get.
Okay.
So what my sort of mission was, anything happening closest to camera, the planes closest to the camera, let's have those be real. And then obviously, as you fill out the further squadron, the rest of the group in the sky, yes, you get help with visual effects. But if the plane that is doing the maneuver right in front of you is real, you can feel that. So that's how you find the balance.
Fellas, this here's Bagman.
Hangman.
Whatever.
Fellas, this is Bagman.
Hangman.
Whatever. Glenn, it's great to see you here in D.C. Congratulations on the release of the movie.
Appreciate it, man.
So back-to-back carrier aviation movies, different eras completely. What was the common thread that you discovered as you were playing both Hangman and Tom Hugger?
These are two very different men, two very different eras of combat, very different airplanes. So, I mean, the approach to it, obviously we're playing in the same sandbox of naval aviation, but these movies cannot be more different. I think they complement each other beautifully in terms of the legacy of naval aviation. But yeah, I mean, if you watch Top Gun, I think you'll love Devotion. If you love Devotion, I think you'll love Top Gun. So I think they're both fantastic movies. But yeah, as far as characters go, they're very different.
So you're not only the lead actor, you're also an executive producer. So in terms of the chronology, because everybody in my audience is going to think, okay, he did Top Gun Maverick and then he did Devotion, but you actually came into awareness and desire to forward this property before you got involved with Top Gun Maverick.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, I've been obsessed with naval aviation. I grew up with a poster of the Blue Angels on my wall when I was a kid, and I've been developing this project for 5 years, so that's definitely predated Top Gun. And so the fact that Black Label, who produced this movie, and Tom Cruise gave me the blessing to make both movies was fantastic, because they really do complement each other. And so, yeah, it's really interesting that Devotion was developed before Top Gun. I got to make Top Gun and have that entire education on how to really do a naval aviation movie well, and then we got to make this. It all informs each other, but yeah, they're both just beautiful films.
So that education, as you put it, is Kevin LaRoche is part of that.
Yep.
Right? And so the cinematography will look familiar, different airplanes, but sort of the vivid look of the real airplanes flying was the lessons learned from what's the airplane?
Cinejet.
The Cinejet and all of that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Kevin LaRosa, who's our, aerial coordinator, just the best there is. I mean, he's unbelievable. What an eye. And I've now gotten to work with him 3 times. I worked with him on Top Gun, on Devotion, and we're producing, I'm producing a Blue Angels documentary with J.J. Abrams. I've gotten to really put Kevin LaRosa to work. But the fact is that, yeah, when you're talking about shooting something for real, you look at a lot of war movies, right? Especially aviation movies. It's very difficult to make a movie where you put real planes in the sky with real actors. It's incredibly dangerous. It's incredibly costly. But the lesson I learned on Top Gun is there is no substitute. The audience knows the difference between a real airplane and a CGI airplane. And you cannot fake it. If you want the audience to have real stakes, and have real stakes for everyone within the movie, it has to be real. And so we had to pull warbirds from around the world to make sure this felt real for the audience. And that's what I'm, think is just so incredible about this. We pulled Bearcats, we pulled Corsairs, Sky Raiders, and it's just, they're all on screen. Oldest Sikorsky helicopter, it's all there. So that's just an incredible feat to bring that to an audience, because I think it really does ground the stakes and everything that happens within this movie.
So during Top Gun, as we talk about the lessons learned, on my channel we've covered the rigorous training that you guys went through, stunt planes, L-39s into the backseat of the Super Hornet.
Yeah.
You got the bug, right? So talk to us about what you did in the wake of that.
Well, we put the actors on this movie through a very similar program, a program that I learned from Tom Cruise. Tom put us through the Cessna, the Extra, the L-39 to the F-18. On this one, I believe we did the Cessna to the Texan, and then we were did the back of a Sea Fury.
Okay.
So, and the Sea Fury is really what we shot a lot of these scenes in.
Okay.
So really dynamic, very cool airplane. Cool airplane.
Yeah.
And just when you fly in like a Sea Fury, you go, okay, that's the legacy of aviation. You really do feel it. And these old warbirds, we took more warbirds from around the world than I think of, especially Corsairs. A very rare airplane, very hard to fly, very dynamic. And we took, I think there's 12 that are flyable, and we had 6 on this movie. Flying together constantly, that's pretty impressive. And you have to find people that know how to fly them. And we're pushing these things to their limits, the way we're flying them. It's just really, it's pretty cool. For any person that's a fan of aviation, it's as cool as it gets.
So we're here with my good friend Kathy ROTH-DOUQUET, the founder and, is it CEO or executive director of Blue Star Families, who I've known forever. You're gigantic.
Forever.
and her husband Hal. So, fun fact, because we always bore people with this story.
We have to tell this
We
story.
have to. It's automatic.
It's an
I think
awesome
it's written
story.
in law.
Yeah.
So they met when Kathy was working for President Clinton,
Doing advance.
and Hal, Greg, was one of the Marine One pilots with HMX-1.
Right. Can we tell the other story?
Okay, so then fast forward. So I met Kathy when I was the editor of military.com, and she was
I'm
a
schmoozing him.
lamplighter.
Yep.
You opened a lot of doors for us, particularly when the Obama administration first got into office. The new GI Bill hit the streets. There was a lot of stuff going on, and Matt Flavin, Colby Langley, all kinds of people, the whole crew, right? All these veteran influencers. So this was all about Kathy. So I say to Kathy, hey, because I knew Greg was in Afghanistan. You were General McChrystal's policy advisor or
strategic advisor. Poobah is, I think, the right term.
You were running. He was basically running the war, and that's when it was going great. You may remember. So Kathy gave me a watch.
Yeah, I'm like, Ward, you got to help me out here. I got a present. I can't get
to
it.
Congratulate him on getting that billet.
Yeah.
Because you'd just been fleeted up to the highest levels of responsibility when McChrystal was ISAF. And so I figured, as we were doing this whirlwind around Afghanistan, I would see you in Kabul when we were interviewing General McChrystal.
Right.
So I am in Paktika province.
Very remote, right?
Very remote. Gravel runway.
Tora Bora.
Tora Bora is the general area, but it's Forward Operating Base Salerno, right? So we're doing our embedded journalist thing and talking to the troops and eating good food at the DFAC and all this sort of stuff.
Not so much.
And so I go into the headquarters tent there, and I see that the table is set with names. It was a junket, a think tank junket, right? Michael Hanlon and all these sorts of fellows. And I see your name. I'm like, oh my God, at one of the places it says Colonel Greg Douquet. So I run to my hooch, get the watch, which I thought I would deliver like a month later, and just waited for you like a stalker, you know? And I was dressed in my high-tech Black Hawk, cool guy downrange gear. I'm like, hey, because I got a watch for you. We never met, right? So there's this guy in the middle of nowhere,
right, in the middle
dressed
of
like
nowhere.
Dennis Hopper in Apocalypse Now.
And, like, can his wife track him down or what?
Exactly.
Like, there you are.
So that's the
in
story
the desert.
we always tell at
Got a
Blue
gift
Star
for
Family
you.
get-togethers. So here we are at the premiere of Devotion. We just finished doing the red carpet action. Now, Blue Star Families has an initiative that is relevant to the subject of this movie. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so Blue Star Families, we partnered with Sony because this movie Devotion helps us tell a story we're trying to tell. It's our campaign for inclusion. So military families, super diverse, right? We have many military families of color. What's the experience of these families in the community where they live? Turns out no one ever asked that question. And so Blue Star Families asked that question, and we found out that it's not always good. And that if we tell these stories, we can make a difference. And it matters that we make a difference, because not only are military families diverse today, but in 5 years, the majority of people that we recruit are going to be from racial or ethnic minorities. And so if we want a future military, we have to make sure people are having good experiences where they live. That's our campaign for inclusion. And this movie, Devotion, helps us tell what the stakes are.
Well, what can my viewers do to help? Where should they go?
Yeah, come to bluestarfam.org, join our campaign for inclusion. We've got all kinds of ways you can engage. Join Blue Star Families, it's free. There's ways that you can help the families in your community feel welcome. And that's where it all starts. This movie is a story of friendship. Friendship's kind of the solution.
Well, thanks, you guys. Great to see you out here in D.C.
Solution.
Okay, remember that. Sounds like a bumper sticker. I'm going to quote you on that. It's Greg Douquet. That's trademarked. All right. Back to you.
Mistakes get us killed. Can't tell you how many times people have told me to give up, quit, die even. One can't always do what you're told. It's a mag! If I did, I wouldn't be here.